Hi, and welcome to Mondays with Marlo. I'm really excited to have Tory Johnson back. This is her second time. We're thrilled to have you. And what's great about Tory is she's this wonderful career expert. She's got so many tips and points for us. But I am interested in the fact that she was actually once fired from a job, and then she just turned around and built $2 billion companies or $1 million companies and that help women in the workplace. So I know a lot of people wrote in and said that they'd been fired from jobs and how to deal with that. So Tori's going to be able to really help us with that. And you've got your 6th book out this year?
It's coming out very soon, yeah.
What's that called?
Spark and Hustle.
Oh,
Spark
wow.
and Hustle.
That sounds great.
Small business success.
That's terrific. So let's get started. We've got a million questions for
Great.
you. And this is from Sydney T. Hi, Tony. What are some do's and don'ts for a job interview?
Okay, so first do is do your homework. And that means really understand everything that you can about the company and the position before you go into the conversation. Too often the big don't is I'll sort of wing it. I'll sort of go in and I'll have a really great attitude and
Right.
I'll see whatever they want and I'll kind of go with the flow. And that's a big mistake because of course you want that great attitude, but you want to have an agenda that's built on having done your homework.
So the first thing is do your homework. And
Yes.
what's the second good thing to do?
Another good thing to do is to know everything that you can about this particular position and why you are an ideal fit for it. And so be ready to be able to point to 3 or 5 things in your background about experiences that you've had, knowledge that you have that makes you an especially good fit for this position.
Great. And is there a third do?
The third do that I would say is make sure that you have researched the people that you're going to meet.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so you can Google anybody today.
Right.
Plug in that person's name. What can you learn about them and their background? Maybe you can determine something interesting about their background that's going to really help to create a better connection when you sit down for that conversation.
Those are great tips. This is from Michelle. Hey, Tori, what are some tips for standing out in the job interview?
Okay, so this is a really smart one, Michelle, because just getting the interview is that's a big step, but
Yes.
you're definitely not home free just
Right.
because you've gotten that call.
Right.
So a few smart things are to, obviously you want to do all of your research in advance, know about the position and the person that you're interviewing with, come with some really smart questions. And smart questions are not how much am I going to get paid and how much vacation do I have?
Right.
But instead, questions like, tell me about the challenges that are unique to this position. Tell me about the person who had this position previously. Is this a newly created position? Really try to understand how this position fits in with the overall department or organization. And many times, the questions you ask are just as important as the answers that you give because it shows that you're not just applying for any position,
Right.
but that you are really interested in this particular one and in this particular company. And too often when you're given a chance to ask questions, people say, nope, I don't have any more questions.
right.
Or
I know that always stands out as a bad thing.
That's the worst.
Yes.
Or if the questions revolve too much around how much vacation am I going to have?
Right.
What are the hours?
Right.
The first interview is not the time for that stuff.
That's great. This is from Valerie Thomas. Well, we're not related, but hi, Valerie. What are 3 tips for creating a great resume?
Okay, first, length of the resume. It should really just be a page. I know for a lot of people that's difficult, but focus on a page because frankly, that's all somebody's going to read.
Right.
You don't have to include every single thing that you've ever done. So I don't know how much experience Valerie has, but if you've been working for a very long time, an employer is really going to judge you on the last 10 to 15 years. So that should be the bulk of your resume. And then the last thing I would say is focus on a celebration of your successes, not just a rehash of your responsibilities. Too often, every bullet on the resume is responsible for, and it really looks like a job description. Instead, tell me not just what you did, but how well you did it. We want to know what kind of results you've been able to drive in the past.
Very good. Here's something from Maureen. With the job application process being done via email or over the phone, how can I make myself look better on paper? How can I make my resume stand out from the rest? Is a flashy resume one that's been created in Photoshop and more aesthetically pleasing than just a Word document a good idea, or is it just distracting?
That's a distraction. I would not put so much emphasis just on the paper document. The way that you're really going to stand out is by having a clean document that somebody can look at and immediately understand who you are and what you're all about. But more significantly than what you put on that resume is how you are marketing that document. What are the interesting things that you're doing to make sure that people know who you are? So it's not just about making yourself look good on paper, but it's actually making sure that paper is going to be seen. And that is increasingly difficult for job seekers, because we live in this time of like apply online and then wait for the phone to ring. Apply online and pray that somebody calls.
So how do you do that?
So what you want to be able to do is market your resume. So for example, you've applied online, then find somebody that you know who maybe works in the company or knows somebody who works in the company. There's some really good apps on Facebook and also on LinkedIn that you can use to figure out, who do I know that knows somebody who works at one of those companies.
Great.
And there's very simple tools that you can use on the internet. So instead of applying and waiting, apply and then start hustling.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes it's about cold calling the company. Just doing a little bit of research online can help you get to somebody. And then it's about calling and saying, I've applied, here's why I'm an ideal match, can we talk?
Great. This is from Daniel Moyer. Hello, Daniel. Do you have any tips for college grads on how to get that first job, or how can you make yourself appealing to potential employers when you don't have that much experience?
So a couple of things I would think here. First is, remember, Daniel, that the first job is not the last job. The first job doesn't even have to be in your dream industry. The first job is about, getting some experience. It's about getting your foot in the door. It's more important that you align yourself with a company and a person that's going to allow you to do a lot of work, to get your hands dirty, to get really involved. And frankly, it doesn't have to be within your same industry. Don't think of this as the end-all be-all dream job. Think about this as the resume builder. This is the skill builder. And then I would say a lot for college grads, new grads, is about attitude. So you're not going to be able to wow them with having more experience than other people because, as you said, you don't have a lot of experience to start. But you have sensibilities and you have an attitude and a personality, and you have had experiences and a sense of what you want to bring to the workplace that's going to help you stand out above other candidates who really and truly are just looking for a job, just looking to get the bills paid.
And also what you did in school, or what clubs you belonged to, if you worked on the paper, or whatever kind of involvement you had.
Absolutely. All of that counts.
I know. When I've hired young people, I'm always interested in what they did in school.
Absolutely.
This is from Jesse. In college, many of my professors urged us to start blogs and websites, even if they weren't entirely related to our career goals, to have something to give potential employers something to look at, to get a greater idea of who we are. Is having a blog and directing potential employers to it a good idea?
It's a good idea depending on the topic. So it doesn't have to be directly related to the area that you want to get into, but if this shows that you are a great writer, that you are curious, that you are an explorer, those are all great things that any employer is going to be interested in. If this blog is about doing bad things on the weekends, then this is not what you're going to direct people to. But if this is about travel that you've had or experiences and exploration that you've done, then by all means, because employers are looking for that well-rounded individual, somebody who can think creatively, think smartly. And if your blog demonstrates that that's who you are and that's how you think, by all means, showcase it.
And also, you'd have to keep it updated.
Sure.
You have to keep working on it.
That's right.
So that you'd have a lot of material.
That's right. You definitely don't want to show a blog that you ended 3 years ago and have sort of let
blogs
linger.
and websites are a lot of work. Trust me, I have one. This is from Henrietta. Is it a bad idea for a recent college graduate to freelance in a number of different fields, or is it better to just stick to one field?
Henrietta, that depends entirely on what your career goals are. If you really aren't sure yet what you want to do, then definitely freelancing in a couple of different areas can help you determine what you like as well as what you don't like. And so that can be incredibly beneficial. Plus, there's nothing wrong with showing that you are staying busy and that you're in demand. And so having a variety of freelance projects shows that you are in demand, that you are busy, that you're out there hustling, all good signs to a prospective employer.
Hustling is a really good sign.
Yeah.
Employers like that. This is from Mary. Oh, this is something you really know about because you were fired.
Yep.
I was recently fired from a job that I had for 8 years. My previous employer stated it was for performance. I need to know the best answer to put on an application in the spot where it asks for the reason why I left a company. Also, what do you do when an application has a spot for me to check? Have you ever been terminated or fired from a job? It was a wrongful termination. It was proven by the unemployment office. I would like advice as to what to say in an interview when the subject is brought up on the termination.
Okay, so this is obviously a very delicate one. And the reality is you can't lie. And so what I would make sure that you do is, if you have to check that box that you were terminated, which in fact is the truth, be able to add an additional comment and let somebody know that perhaps it was a mutual consent, that this wasn't the right fit, that it was a mutual choice. Or you can say that you're very proud of your performance and you would love to be able to share a lot of the successes that you brought. One of the things that you want to make sure that you don't do is talk about any kind of squabble that you got into with your boss, or why the boss didn't like you, or why the boss was bad and why the boss was wrong. That's putting you down the wrong path. Instead, you could say that you very much respect that your boss decided that this was no longer a good fit, but that you're actually very proud of the accomplishments and achievements that you had in that position, and be able to point to what some of them were, be able to point to some of the good work that you did, and talk about how much you value your time at that company and how proud you are of your contributions. Because that's something that keeps it very much on a high note, and it shows you respect that somebody else decided that you weren't right for the job.
Or it was mutual.
That's right.
Mutual.
That's right.
This is from Nanette. What are the industries that are hiring right now?
So some of the hottest area probably right now is healthcare. And so that's interesting, but it doesn't matter, frankly, if you aren't interested in that field. One of the benefits that I tell people, though, about healthcare is that you can look in areas where there are ample opportunities. So, for example, if we take healthcare and we say even a hospital or a health insurance company, a hospital, for example, is an area that's almost like its own community. They do hiring in every area that you can imagine, whether it is event planning, accounting, engineering. So you don't have to be the one who is working directly with patients in order to benefit from the boom right now in healthcare. So think about, if you're looking at what are the industries that are hot, that would be one of them, but doesn't mean that you have to have a particular passion or expertise or experience in that area to take advantage of it. And the other thing is, I would say, study what's hot in your area geographically. And you can do that by reading your local newspaper, looking at your local newspaper online. What are the businesses that are being talked about? What are the businesses that are doing a lot of hiring right now? It's going to be different in every area of the country. So you need to know the business climate of where you live.
That's a good idea. This is from Gretchen. This is a big one. What advice would you give when you are asked in an application for desired salary?
This is one where a lot of people get tripped up
that's
because you
scary.
don't want to undersell yourself, but you don't want to price yourself out of it.
Right.
This is where research is critical. Look up what that position should pay. You can use a really great website called payscale.com. There's other salary calculators online. Look up what the position should pay based on the amount of experience required, the level of education, the location of the position, the industry that the company operates in. All of that data can give you what the median salary should be. And then look at that number against your own experience and skill. And then you can use it, or perhaps give a small range around it. And if you have the ability to say that it's negotiable after conversation and consideration, you should add that too. But it shouldn't be based solely on sort of how much money you want to make. It should be really based on how much money that position should pay based on the research that you've done.
And one of the things that Susie Orman said when she was here is, try to get the job. Don't outprice yourself. Don't say, oh, well, I have to have this much to live, so I must have this. She says you can find a way to live under.
Yeah,
get the
if
job.
necessary.
Get the job and do a good performance.
That's right.
This is from Kathy Blakely. How do you find a job when you're over 50, recently separated after 19 years and no job skills? Oh, Kathy, we got to help you.
Kathy, first, I would not say that you have no job skills. Simply because you haven't worked or haven't been paid to work doesn't mean that you don't have any skills. And so you've got to sit down and figure out where is your expertise and what areas are you really an expert in, even if somebody hasn't paid you for that. Right. Come up with a list. If someone said, Kathy's the go-to person for X, Y, and Z. What are those X, Y, and Z? Put those things down on paper. One really fun exercise is to use then those keywords and go to a website like careerbuilder.com or HotJobs and plug in those keywords and see what positions come up just based on those keywords. And you'd be surprised that so many of the things that you've been accustomed to doing in your everyday life are things that will apply to specific positions.
Like what?
So, for example, maybe she is the go-to person for fundraising. And so perhaps, she spent a lot of time fundraising just through PTA programs.
Right.
And she's also planned a lot of events through her kids' school. And people say, Kathy is the go-to person when you need to put together an event and when you need to work on a budget or when you need to fundraise. So you go plug those things in and you discover that fundraising, event planning, those are paid professions. Those are things that you can make money doing. Does it mean that you're going to walk in as, the head of funding and the head of event planning? No, but it certainly means that you could potentially be an asset to somebody in maybe a support position, an administrative role in those areas where you have experience.
Exactly.
So don't assume that simply because you haven't been paid that you have nothing to offer.
And also volunteer work, whatever volunteer work that you've done.
That's right.
A lot of women volunteer. I know that. This is from Pauline Horowitz. Do you think the current job market come spring will be more welcoming to this year's college graduates than it seemed to be last year? Are these year's grads going to have an easier or harder time finding employment than last year's grads?
I'm hopeful. I'm pretty optimistic that it will be easier. However, easier doesn't mean easy. So, simply because something isn't as difficult it has been in the last few years doesn't mean that it's going to be a breeze. It's not a breeze for anybody right now. And so the number one thing that you could tell your soon-to-be grad, if maybe it's you or it's your son or daughter, is to connect with the Career Service Office on campus right now. Too many students who are seniors wait until graduation day comes to start plugging into the Career Service Office or to start thinking about their careers. Instead, if you're graduating in May, you want to start working on that right now. Like, you cannot start too soon to be focused on, is my resume ready? Is my interviewing skills ready? Who are the employers that are coming on campus that I should connect with right now? Are my digital profiles what they need to be? Don't wait until graduation day to start thinking about that.
That's great. Now here's from Shannon. My friend put her photo on her resume. Is that a good idea?
I'm not so hot on photos on resumes. The truth is, if an employer wants to see what you look like, chances are they're going to go find you on Facebook, they're going to look for you online. And you should have thorough professional photos, making the assumption that somebody will find it online. But I don't think it should belong on a resume.
This is from Trudy in Portland. Cover letters. Is short and to the point the best approach?
Yes, Trudy, you could be a job search expert. Yes, short and to the point is exactly what you want your cover letter to be. Because no one's reading, massive amounts of text.
Right.
Short and to the point is key.
Great. And this is from Lanny. What are some tips for college graduates this year for getting a job?
So first, connect right now with your Career Service Office. Definitely don't wait until you've left campus. Career Service Offices have a wealth of information, but they're not going to come out and get you. You've got to come into their office and make connections with them. Join the Alumni Network now before you even graduate. Think about connecting with maybe 10 people who graduated from the program that you did. Find out what they're doing right now. Where are they working?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Might they give you an informational interview where they'd be willing to tell you about how they got to where they are? Perhaps they'd be willing, to make introductions for you or make connections for you. So tapping that alumni network is one of the biggest advantages that new grads had. Talk to your parents and ask them who they know and how they can help. You don't necessarily want them to make the calls for you or to get the job for you, but ask them to introduce you to. If you had to give me 5 people that you think that it would be important for me to call and introduce myself to, who are those 5 people? And then really track yourself. Set weekly goals, because many times the job search process, it's stuff nobody loves doing, and it's boring and tedious and frustrating. And so set some specific goals. I'm going to connect with 5 alumni per week. I'm going to make 5 new calls per week. I'm going to work on my LinkedIn connections, 1 hour per week. Set some really specific goals, and by Friday, make sure you've done them.
That's great. Very good. This is from Tina Lewis Rowe. In starting my own business, well, this is something you've done a couple times. What is the first thing I should do?
Know how you're going to make money. So, many times we have a really great idea and we can envision our product or service and, we can talk all about it and we're excited about it, but we have no idea how we're going to make money. Who is going to buy this product? How much is it going to sell for? How much is it going to cost you to deliver this product or service? Really know the numbers, because it doesn't matter how fancy your logo is, doesn't matter how clever the business name is, doesn't matter if you've got yourself a business banking account. If you don't know how you're going to make money and you're not really clear about it, you don't have a business.
Very good. This is from Thomas Corcoran. I'm a midlife career changer. To get some experience, I landed an unpaid internship at a nonprofit Pacer Center, creating and implementing an inbound marketing program. I'm not sure if I should use the word internship when I describe what I did for Pacer Center to a potential employer or on my LinkedIn profile.
So here's what I would say. I would suggest that you talk to Pacer and ask them what would be an appropriate way to describe what you did. You don't want to use a job title only to have them say, he didn't work here, he never worked here, he was an intern here. So you want to get clear with them that they're okay with you using a different title. And then, frankly, I think it's okay to worry less about what the title is and more about the results that you achieved. So it's okay to say that you were an intern as long as then you can really back it up quickly with, here's the program that I created and here's the results that my efforts generated. Those are the things that are going to be much more impressive than just whatever the title was. But I wouldn't make up a title unless you've cleared it with them first.
That's a good idea. And the description of what you did.
That's right.
This is from Joseph Reyes. Oh, thank God, I've been unemployed for 4 years. I need any pointers I can get.
Okay, so
Wow.
yeah. So the first is, I would say, step away from the internet and start meeting with people face to face. People are your best source of job leads. People hire people, and so I want you to make an effort every single day to connect with 3 new people. That's going to require you to leave your house. And so go to things like your local library. They often have amazing programs that support job seekers. Find out who's hiring. They often bring in speakers that can be very helpful. Do some strategic volunteering. That's a definite way to get out of your house and to meet new people. Volunteer with something that you want to get paid to do. Do some temp work. If you connect with enough temp agencies, the American Staffing Association's website has one of the best searchable databases so that you can find temp resources. And there's temp opportunities in just about every industry and every category. So between pursuing programs like a job club or a local library support group, volunteering strategically, and temping, those are some ways that you can make some new connections that ultimately can help you land a job. But basically, it's like getting out of the house.
Right. Now, this is from Nikki Longo. Would you say the same thing to her? She says, how to search and get a job after a 2-year medical absence. I want to jumpstart my career.
So
the same thing.
Yep,
sort of.
A lot of this temping, strategic volunteering, because the first thing an employer wants to know is, what have you been doing lately? And when you say, well, I've been out and unable to work for the past 2 years, frankly, it's an immediate turnoff. And so if you can immediately start getting into some type of temp work and volunteering, when someone says, what have you been doing? Focus on those immediate things. Focus on what you are doing right now, and it's going to help to minimize those 2 years of time out.
All right, that's a good idea. This is interesting. She said, I was laid off from my job for 14 months. I'm over 50. I live on an island off the coast of Maine where employment opportunities are limited, to say the least. I have applied for every job that I believe I can do regardless of being overqualified, but haven't had any luck yet. Half the time they don't even respond to my inquiry. It's getting to be disheartening. Do you have any advice?
Yes. So here's the advice. You can't apply and pray that the phone's going to ring. You can't apply and wait. Instead, come up with a list of 20 different organizations. And maybe you come up with them because they are local organizations that you know exist where you live. Maybe they are names of places that you've applied before. And instead of simply applying online to whatever they have posted, cold call those organizations, cold call those companies, get to know somebody there. Let them know what your skills and abilities are. Offer to come in and work on a project basis. Maybe you don't have a full-time opportunity for me, but here's a great idea and here's a great way that I might be able to serve you. Let me come in and do this project for you. So it's about being more proactive instead of reactive.
Right.
You pitch them instead of waiting for them to call you.
Right.
That can make all the difference in the world.
This is from Joni Zagorski, and we read this a lot on our website. She said, finding work over 50 when you have so much experience and everyone else wants younger people. What do you do?
So here's the thing. Obviously, age discrimination is very real. We live in a youth-obsessed society. Yet, that said, not everybody wants to hire only young people. Employers want to hire the person who is the best match for the opportunity. So your job is to focus on how to be the best match. It's very easy to use age as a crutch because it's the one thing that you cannot control. Instead, you have to position yourself as the best match for the opportunity. So if you are applying for positions that typically go to a new college grad, you're just not going to get that job. Instead, I would say you have to apply to positions that are more suited to the skills and experience that you bring to that position. I would also say focus less on your resume and more on making direct connections. Because if somebody perhaps meets you in person or they get to know you, they might say, you know what, we really need her, and they forget about the fact that you're over 50, or they forget about the fact that you have all this vast experience that they're not going to be able to afford because they think you're too expensive. Instead, they say, she's got the ideas, energy, and expertise that we need, let's find a spot for her. And that comes by making those direct connections and not worrying so much about relying on a resume to get the phone call.
Very good. This is from Daniel Wilkerson. I like this question. Tory, are there any skills or qualities that you think across the board most people lack in the workplace or on resumes that would give them a leg up?
Sure. I think more than anything today, employers want people who are adaptable and flexible, people who can jump from one area to another area, who are not going to get flustered and freaked out if there are changes and shifting priorities. And so if you can demonstrate ways that you have been adaptable in the past, I think that's an enormous benefit to employers. And many times that comes across in conversation, not necessarily so much on a resume. And I think that being able to share those specific experiences. So not walking in and simply saying, I'm flexible, I'm adaptable, but being able to demonstrate how specifically you've been flexible and adaptable in the past. That matters a lot to employers today.
This is one that I'm sure you have some thoughts on. This is from Nan. My girlfriend and I have this amazing idea for a new social media website, but we're too broke to hire a web designer. Where can we go to try to get our idea funded?
Okay, so a couple things. I'd say two things. First is I would say you can try to barter. If you know somebody who is a designer who could help you, how can you barter? How can you involve them in the process? Maybe they get a piece of the business when and if this becomes something. The other is there's a great website that I love called Indiegogo.com, and it's a crowdfunding website. And what that means is instead of seeking a loan or even an investment, people will contribute to your idea because they like you and the idea that you've started. And so, for example, you might say, we need $3,000 to get our idea going. You're going to have to describe what the idea is and share a lot of that. Then you're going to ask all of your social media connections to contribute it. And they might say, you know what, that's a pretty cool idea. I'll give you $10 for that. Or your parents might say, hey, you know what, we want to support our girls, and so here's $100 toward that. And by using all of your social media connections in a very short time, you could have the money that you need. So crowdfunding. It's a crowdfunding website, and it's one of the hottest and fastest ways that small business owners like you, people with a really great idea but not the cash, are getting the money to be able to launch their dreams.
You just know everything. It's amazing.
That's a fun one. I like that one.
That's great. This is an interesting question from Wilma. How do you assess whether your job is secure and stable? Are there signs you can look out for?
Yeah. So, Wilma, if nobody knows your name in the company, that's not a good sign. You want to make sure that people know who you are and know what you're contributing. A lot of times in the past couple of years, we've heard, like, just keep your head down low. Just, don't be visible. Just fly under the radar.
No.
And those are the people who are in the most trouble. If you walk down the hall and people know who you are and what you're contributing, you're in really good shape. I would also make sure that you pay attention to what's happening within the company and its financial performance, and also the industry, because many times you can do a really great job, but the company itself or the industry is in trouble. And those are signs to pay attention, not to just hope for the best, but perhaps to brush off your resume and start thinking about the job search process. So it's about you and your performance and who knows you and how much they know that you're contributing. And it's also about paying attention to the company and the industry and how it's performing right now.
Oh, we have just time for a couple more, so I want to try to get them in quick. This is from Ghost World. And this is a great question because she says, or he, I work as an administrative assistant for a radio station, have been doing that for a number of years. I like the workplace. I've never intended to be here forever, and I don't want to be in this position forever. Unfortunately, it's not the kind of thing that I can move up the ladder, so I'd have to find a new job. But I'd rather not be an administrative assistant at another radio station. But my resume is pretty much that. So how do I get out of being stuck?
Okay, so two things that you can focus on. First is it radio that you like, and would you like to go into another position within radio? And if so, you want your resume to reflect all that you know about radio. Not so much what you do on a day-to-day basis as an admin, but instead all the knowledge that you have about radio. Or is it the administrative stuff that you love, but not so much in radio, and you rather get out of that industry and move into a different one, in which case you'll minimize how much you talk about radio on your resume, and you really emphasize all of your admin skills and your project management skills, because those could be transferred into another industry quite easily. So ask yourself, what do you like best about the work that you do? Is it the industry in which you do it, or is it the type of work that you do on a day-to-day basis? And then you want to build your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and all of your outreach around that.
And also some wishful thinking should come in there too,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
That you really would like to have a job in decorating or something. So
that's right.
Start to think about what you've done that could lead you there.
That can lead there. What can you leverage from the past to move into what you really want?
Because dreams are important. Having a dream of something you want to do and then finding a way to get that is a big thing, I think. A big thing.
Huge.
This is from Annie T. Hi, Tory. I work as a freelancer, and I currently don't have health insurance. What is the best way to go about buying my own insurance so I don't end up spending a fortune?
This varies depending on the state in which you live. So the first thing that you should do is to check with your state, because many states have healthy insurance programs, and that's literally what they're called. In New York, it's called Healthy New York, but it could be healthy whatever state that you're in. And it's affordable insurance coverage for people just like you who don't qualify for insurance through your direct employer. So first step, check with the state. Ask them what programs you might be eligible for. And then you can also talk to other people who do freelance work or have small businesses to ask them if they could connect you with their broker to see what the cost would be for a private policy.
Okay, this is our last question.
Okay.
And we've gone over the time, but I'm trying to jam as many as I can. This is from Rhonda. Where else can I apply to jobs besides online? I feel frustrated. I send my resume out into cyberspace, and I feel like it never gets read.
Smart cookie. That is definitely the case. And so the best that you can do is to deliver your resume directly to a person. And I don't mean showing up in their office and handing it to them, but getting the name of the person who's responsible for filling that position, which you can get by cold calling the company, or you can certainly get by using LinkedIn and then emailing that person directly. Here's a copy of my resume. Here's why I'm ideally suited. Here's what I can do for you. Don't just send a resume and say, do you have anything for me? But instead, when you send that resume, you want to say, here's what I can do for you. You know, would you give me 10 minutes even by phone to be able to talk about how I'd be a great asset? Here's why I'm so impressed with your company. Here's why I'd be a really good match for what you do and how you do it. So it's about going that extra mile, not just passing your resume out there, but connecting it to a specific person and position and company that you're really interested in.
Great. Thank you so much, Tory.
Of course, this is so much fun.
You're really the answer man, or answer woman. We can't stump her. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you got some of your answers. I know I couldn't get to everybody, but I hope I tried to pick the ones that would seem to apply to the most people. So I hope you got a lot out of today. And your new book is coming out when?
Spark and Hustle in June.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I want to spark and hustle. See you next time.